My name is Aleksandr Grishanin, and I'm from Nekki, a programmer, and I'll be talking about animation today. Uh, I'll be talking about tips and tricks we used in our game under development, Shadowfight 3, to make our animation attractive to the player. So, let's see. Obviously, Shadowfight 3 is not the first game in the series. Before, we had Shadowfight 2 and Vector. They were rather popular, especially for our company. More than 150 million of installs total on all mobile platforms. And so the main ingredient due to which, well, we think, which made it popular were the cool and realistic animations. So with the development of mobile hardware and with development of our company, actually, we decided to go 3D and to create the next game in the series, Shadowfight 3. And we did it with Unity. The main thing we wanted to keep were cool, realistic animations, like animations in our own style, not cartoon style animations. So let's see. What we understand as good animation, as realistic animation, and attractive. First, I divided it into three main parts. First, contactability with the player. Like you have to immerse the player in the game. You have to let him feel that this is really happening. Let him feel, well, that's a fighting game. And so you have to make him feel that the characters actually interact, actually fight. Second, we wanted our animations to be physics-based, and by that, I mean physically realistic animations. So that meant that we looked at such physical values as position of the center of mass, moment of inertia, angular momentum, and we tried to preserve the Newton's laws. And the next, continuity. Continuity of animation, you have to make the player feel that the animations, that your game, it's not actually a bunch of animations that are played on the character, but that's actually the character and just the characters that interact with each other. So let's see what we did to reach these goals. Tips and tricks for contactability. Well, first, something to immerse the player in our game and to provide an explanation for the name of the game, we added a shadow mode. And with shadow mode, we associated fantasy style animation that broke the Newton laws, and that was maybe that was magic based. That's some visual effect. Now let's get to the more animation effects. First, slow motion. We used slow motion a lot in previous games. It really proved itself really good to immerse the player. In our fighting game, we use it just before the probable last hit. It adds honesty. You can actually see how far you were from missing, or who got whom when both characters attack. It makes the moment more valuable too. So let's see what it looks like. Again. So you see the character actually missed by a margin. Let's go further. Freezeframe and shake screen, we use it together. We use it when the critical hit occurs. It shows impact, so the player can actually feel it. If you shake the device, turn on vibration, it will do even better. And concentrates the emotion around this moment. So let's see how it looks in the game. Again. Something like that. Okay, let's go further. This is not much of a trick, but it's something we really paid attention a lot to. Reactions to hits. We have animated reactions to hits, and the reaction to hit we use depends on the hit and on the place of the collision, on the place where the collision occurred. Actually, our animators say that reactions are harder to make, and we sometimes pay more attention to reactions than to hits, because they show the result of the hit. They show what the hit actually did. The hit is usually rather fast, and the reaction is slower. It is more detailed. So we won't watch this. We'll go to what we had to do to add these effects. Well, of course, if you want like slow motion, you can't just turn it on like magic. You have to either you have like to have a lot of frames, or you have to need a good you want a good interpolation, so you can actually so the poses of your characters won't look buggish. And what we did, we had quadratic interpolation, and we exported tangents from our editor, and these tangents, they were actually just numerically pre-calculated in our editor tool with a more physical-based approach. We just actually interpolated and then calculated them. But interpolation there is more physical. I'll get to it later. And we used a rather precise collision system. It was actually a 2D collision system. We didn't have to make it 3D. For optimization purposes, we used 2D. It was done with capsules. You can see these capsules actually here on the screen. And it was precise enough that we didn't have to do any splash screens. We didn't have to hide the interaction between the characters. Okay, now to the next part, the realistic, the physics-based part of my presentation. And let's go, let's see. We used our internal editor, 3D editor Cascadeur. It was actually started with the development of the Shadow Fight series, and that means it was really a long way ago, like 7 years or 8 years. And it started really simple. It was like a small experiment. And it was actually an experiment to model physics motion. And it developed throughout the company development. Actually, the basic objects there are just points in 3D space with mass. And having their positions interpolated in all the frames, it is actually easy to calculate such values as center of mass, moment of inertia, angular momentum, and to keep track of these values so that it won't reveal anything unrealistic. So that the animation will look good and realistic. And because actually our animators aren't the really physical guys, they still argue that the heavier the object is, the faster it falls. And because of this, we tried to isolate them from this. Actually, in the end, what we have is visualization of these values and some tips that each animator has to keep an eye on, so the animation will look realistic. Let's get to the values. Center of mass, well, it's actually easy to calculate. And there are two main tips here. First, the movement of the center of mass without like some collision with other characters on high speed. It should always be smooth, because our muscles, they don't work immediately. They work with time, and that actually means that the center of mass should move smoothly. And second, when in midair, when doing jumps, the trajectory should be simply ballistic. Further, moment of inertia and angular momentum. Actually, control of moment of inertia is used a lot in human movement. You might know that skaters use it when they do fast spins. They actually what they do is they bring their hands close to their body. They make the moment of inertia smaller, and because the angular momentum is conserved, they rotate really, really fast. And that's actually what is done in front and back flips, and we have them in our game, and we have a lot of other jumps. And so we keep a track of these values too. We provided some visualization for it. You can see here the arrow. Let's see it. Here's the arrow. Actually, its length is the size of angular momentum, and the radius is the size of moment of inertia. And you can see that when moment of inertia is smaller, the part of the circle that angular momentum covers is bigger, and that actually means faster rotation. So here we try to show our animators what is actually done. Let's see how it looks like in the editor. So, fulcrum forces. Another thing we provided visualization for, forces. You have to take into account then when the distance of the center of mass from the line where the force is applied is actually it actually means rotation. And we made our animators keep a track of that too. Now, another thing about forces. Another tip we have is that where the forces are applied, that direction should be parallel to the center of mass movement. So you can see the illustration here. Now, when you apply these tips, you already have animation that is rather physically correct. So it gives some realistic style to the animation, and we wanted it to be that way a lot. And actually, we are planning to release an open version of our tool for a long time, but I think this year, like in the autumn, we will release it finally. We are working a lot on it. Next, what I called continuity of animation. So you want your players to not feel the transitions between the animations. The transitions are usually done with blending, and although blending works quite nice, it can actually still be seen. So first what you have to look at are your feet. They shouldn't be sliding. It ruins all the magic in the game if the feet start to slide. And actually, it looks quite obvious, but we use it a lot, and we worked on it sometime. What we do to prevent them from sliding? We have pivot points that actually say how the next animation should be shifted. so it won't slide. And these pivot points are different for each of the animation, and it's stored. There is a setting file for all the animation, and the information what pivot point is used for this animation is stored there. Let's see some transitions between animations. So that's basically how it looks. Next, actually, the more animations you have, the smaller is the transition between them. In our fighting game, we had we had to use mirroring. Why? Because our characters are usually half turned to the camera or half turned from the camera. We didn't want to duplicate these animations, so we added mirroring right in the game, and we wrote some scripts that actually provided it right inside the game. We had some restrictions on the skeleton because of this. The first joints, the first bones of the limbs, they had to have negative scale. And so this was enough. Another thing, we were reusing animations a lot. We weren't reusing animations on part of the bodies, like it's done a lot in RPG, but we reused falls, kicks for different weapons. And actually, we have some weapons that are quite the same, but only have like special 2 hits. And that makes it easy to add the new weapons with just having to just add the models. Now, to the physics modeling. Actually, modeling provides continuity too, because because what you model physically doesn't feel the transition between the animation. It is just modeled throughout the whole game. It adds continuity. The player doesn't see the transitions for this part of the character. And so we used mesh clothes. You can see here the Unity. That's how they look in the Unity editor. And that was that like solved our problem for modeling this kind of stuff. And we used Ragdoll. That's Unity Ragdoll 2 here, because there are in a fighting game there sometimes you have to model how the character falls. You can't predict it. Although we have reaction animations to hits for almost all the times when the character is standing. When he's jumping, the place of the collision affects the animation like really a lot. So you just have no other options than to model it. And that was actually rather easy to do too. We used physics, we used colliders, rigid bodies, and it was done rather well. So basically, let's go to the conclusions. What we did for contactability are a set of tricks to make the player feel animations, to immerse him. We looked at we wanted our animations to be realistic, and so we wanted minimum violation of the Newton's laws. We paid attention to this, and we paid attention to using smooth transition, modeled some not animated stuff, provided many animations. And that's a little video. The game is still not ready. It will be launched in autumn, but here are the first results. And actually, In the showcase section, we have a PvP build. If anyone is interested, you can visit. So, thank you for attention.